All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want to find a seat, get comfortable. It's so nice to see you all this evening. My name is Laura Henriksen. Hey, I'm the program director here at the Poetry Project, and I'm so excited to be gathered for readings by Anelise, Chen, and Fama. Just have a few quick announcements and reminders before we get into tonight's program. So there are 2 all-gender restrooms located upstairs, and then 2 more here on the first floor. Those first floor restrooms are through the sanctuary where Dance Space is currently having a performance. So if you need access to a first floor restroom, just find me or anyone on staff and we can sort of get you over there. It is a real pleasure to see you this evening. I would love to see you at the Poetry Project again soon. Although it is the case that our season is really winding down. So next week we have one event which will be really beautiful with Peter Gizzi and John Yao. And then the week after that is one I always look forward to especially. We'll celebrate both our spring workshops. So on Monday we'll hear from all of the participants of classes that we offered this spring. And then on Wednesday, June 5th, our last reading of this season, we'll hear from all of our volunteers and interns, so the people who make these events possible, who put out the chairs, who sell the books. So would very, very much love to see you at any and all of those readings over the next couple of weeks. That is everything from me. I'm really honored now to turn it over to Eugene Lim to introduce Anelise Chen.
Thanks to Poetry Project. A big round of applause probably for Laura Henriksen, who has been here for 10 years. Big thanks to Laura. In Anelise Chen's first novel, So Many Olympic Exertions, the body keeps the score. That is, the ambitions of what we call sports are mapped to the exhausting discipline of capitalist enterprise. Chen shows how our labor is valorized in order for its exploitation. That is, we discover that these Olympic exertions, both famously made and made by ourselves, these narratives of persistence and triumph, defeats and victories, agonies and ecstasies, inform or disguise or belie the more common pain of unrewarded, unremitting, grinding struggle. And in a surprising and brilliant conflation, Chen casts as the stars of this trap the post-65 Asian immigrants, the striver generation, and most importantly, their children. With the idea of Olympic exertion mapped onto the laborious, questionably rewarded, striving of those elsewhere billed as meritocracy's compliant, quote, model minority, what resolves is Anelise Chen's profoundly witty double exposure. So that in her upcoming Clam Down, forthcoming from One World, Chen approaches her central autofictional conceit, that of a woman becoming a clam, through such various and surprising, heartbreaking and funny angles that one not only laughs out loud, but one cries and giggles and weeps and snorts. Chen's book causes so many helpless bodily responses because A, the body keeps the score, but also B, because as smart as these variations on a theme are, it's Chen's strategically conversational persona that unguards us and allows for the intricate metaphors to align into stunning emotion. Clam Down is a metafictional review of animal metamorphosis tales. It's also the voice of a first-generation immigrant as you've rarely, if ever, heard. It's a real-time family saga, it's a modern love tale, and it's a documentary about our collective anxiety attack at the ever-continuing end of the world, but lovingly made and with self-sacrificing comic relief. A writer who disarmingly walks the reader through a blooming, elaborate, emotional game of shells. Please join me in welcoming Anelise Chen.
Okay, I just hope I don't have any involuntary bodily reactions. Thank you so much for that beautiful intro. So I'm actually so nervous. I mean, I actually wasn't nervous until maybe yesterday, and when it dawned on me what, So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure, Laura, you didn't mean to cause an existential crisis, but I sort of alluded to the email. I was like, I've always wanted to read a poetry project, because when I was just starting out as a writer, I thought I could write poetry. I couldn't, but I moved to New York, and I would come here, and it was just the pinnacle of cool, and I always, everyone I idolized had read here. But then I started writing novels and became a novelist, and then I moved away. And so I was like, well, that ship has sailed. But then Laura, you invited me, and I wasn't going to say no. But then I was like, oh my gosh, like it became this exercise of like, what would 20-year-old me think of, 40-year-old me now? And then it was too intense. So that's where I'm in, this is the space I'm in right now. So thank you all for being here and just on this beautiful Friday night. So thank you so much for witnessing this. And I hope I do a good job. I hope this is okay. Thank you. Okay. So I will be reading from Clam Down, which is my next book. It's coming out this time next year. And it's memoir-ish. As they say in the shows, the events, the story is based on real events, true events. And so basically what happens is the writer is going through, it's November 2016, so let's all go back there. It was November 2016. The writer is going through a really painful divorce, and then one day she wakes up and she realizes that she's turned into a clam. So it's basically all you need to know for now. Okay. Clam Down. She hadn't meant to become a bivalve mollusk, but it happened. Several nights ago, after a rib-bruising bike crash caused by momentary inattentiveness and conditions of reduced visibility, i.e., sobbing while cycling, the mollusk had briefly succumbed to an episode of hysteria, during which her mother kept texting her to clam down. Clam down, she had commanded in that sober, no-nonsense way. At first, the clam looked all around her like, who, me? Until she realized that her mother was addressing her. It made sense. Ever since the dissolution of her marriage, she had been consuming a lot of calcium carbonate. This was what clams and other shell-building animals used to make their shells. These days, she kept rolls of Tums in her bag, which got whittled down throughout the day with alarming speed. On her desk, beside the usual writing implements, pen, notepad, was a flip-top container that was more fun to feed off of. It rattled percussively when she shook the tabs out into her palm. They were the tropical variety, delicate pastel colors, flavors that felt like a getaway. But like all getaways, the bomb was instant but brief, hence the need for repeated doses. Humans were not supposed to ingest more than 10 of these per day, but clams could eat them as needed. Both species possessed a stomach, and hers hurt most of the time. Looking back, it hadn't been the first time her mother had issued that particular command. All summer, no matter what the mollusk had tried to convey, the response was much the same. Clam down. Had there been a recent lengthy conversation about seafood? Or perhaps the typo was made fresh each time, her mother pinning the ideogram as pinning the bivalve as ideogram for conduct during distress. Indeed, the word fire in Chinese looked like a flame, the word water like a running stream. The word peace depicted a woman safe at home, notably a character in both of her daughters' names. So perhaps the word clam in English looked calm to her. Everyone knows it's useless to tell an upset person to calm down, but clam down was always a hoot. The first time it happened, the clam, for now she was a clam, laughed and sent a screenshot to her sister, who was equally tickled. "She writes that to me all the time, too," they ha-ha-ha'd into their text windows. Together, they recalled the document that they once discovered on a shared Google Drive that turned out to be their mother's journal. This journal had read more like a captain's log than a confessional text, as it betrayed nothing about how their mother felt, which was uncanny because this was a journal she kept during the family's most tumultuous years. In lieu of emotion, the journal was full of language with which she compelled herself to think positive, lose weight, and stay clam. Either their mother had fallen asleep while typing that sentence, or it was meant as a stage direction. Read while screaming. Oh, their mother's clam smile. That tight, insistent grimace that stretched from jowl to jowl. With it, she could smile her way out of anything. A cursory Google search revealed that most people wanted to know whether clams were alive, shellfish, good for you, crustaceans, healthy, mollusks, halal, animals, vegan, or happy. Admittedly, the girls didn't know either. Their early exposure to sea life had been restricted to the seafood section at the 99 Ranch Market, a kind of poor kids' aquarium. Upon being released from the car, they would rush over to the heaped bins to gently torment the sea creatures. They tapped on their shells with metal utensils until the animals snapped shut. And she understood that whether condemned to the sea floor or as items to be poked and prodded by children, these creatures still had recourse against pain. If you shut yourself tight enough, nothing would happen to you. Now the clam was at the library, surrounded by books. No longer in denial about her true species, she was here to learn more about her evolutionary history. So she was reading from this book called Animals Without Backbones. It featured a cartoon drawing of a squishy, undeniably phallic shape with googly eyes, amoebic and alert. Clams belong to the phylum Mollusca, which derives from the Latin mollus, or soft-bodied, the book explained. The molluscan body plan generally consists of a strong, muscular foot and a layer of tissue called the mantle that protects the viscera in the main body. Some mollusks, like clams, lipids, and snails, built protective shells out of calcium, while other clams, such as octopi, squid, and slugs, evolved to lose them. The shellless mollusks, it should be said, are the intelligent species of the phylum, while she, a clam, quote, neither flees nor turns on its attacker, but lies quiet and defenseless within its hard shell until this is split open with a rock to expose the soft, flabby, deliciously edible, bite-sized invertebrate within. She flipped the page. Despite being helpless and delicious, clams have nevertheless managed to persist through time thanks to their simple, ingenious technology. What clams lack in intelligence, they make up for in endurance. Clams are particularly hardy creatures, appearing in the fossil records as early as the Cambrian period, some 510 million years ago, which means that clams had survived through mass extinctions that devastated other superior creatures such as dinosaurs and mastodons. Some clams are so tough, they manage to dwell 17,000 feet down on the dark sea floor, enduring hydrostatic pressure of almost 4 tons to the square inch. And down there, they live on and on. The oldest living animal ever discovered was a deep-sea quahog named Ming the mollusk, who was 507 years old when they dredged him up from the seafloor. After his disturbance, he quickly died. As the clam read on, she began to feel cozy and validated. Perhaps it was the coffee or the sun slanting in through dusty windows. These facts were doing a lot to legitimize her methods. By clamming down, her species had actually done quite well for itself. Hadn't this clamming down worked well in her marriage? Instead of opening her mouth to spew seawater or sand, she swallowed whatever was bothering her and worried it under her tongue until it gleamed, pink, round, polished. Alone, she might examine the object, evidence of a job well done. Look what I've made. In this way, she could look at the problem without any feelings. After all, she was an artist, and she made beautiful things. and this was how she felt strong. Okay, so after the clam fully embraces her clamhood, she goes on a search to find other, she wants to know who else has this happened to, who else has succumbed to shellfish. So, and maybe surprisingly, I don't know, but a lot of artists and writers have actually become really obsessed with shells at some pivotal moment in their lives, and so the book gets into some of that. And for Rembrandt, for instance, he was going through his midlife crisis and divorce, like bankruptcy, and so like during the auction to liquidate all of his things, he had all these seashells that he had just spent a lot of money buying, and that was maybe why he was bankrupt. But yeah, he's just really obsessed with seashells. And then because I was in New Mexico for much of this, I couldn't avoid Georgia O'Keeffe, who also, when she was at this turning point in her career and was separating from Alfred Stieglitz, she also started painting her clamshells. And then this is Charles White, who painted two shell paintings at the very, very end of his life. And then this was a really great find. Charles Darwin also had a shelled creature phase. So for 8 years, he was really obsessed. He went through a barnacle phase in which he was just obsessed with barnacles. And what happened was he had written like an early draft of Origin of the Species, and then was so terrified about what he had discovered and stumbled upon that he like locked it in a drawer with a message to his wife about what to do with it if he were to die, and then quickly became obsessed with barnacles. And then he just became a recluse. Like he became a barnacle and didn't leave his house like ever after. And yeah, so this barnacle thing almost killed him. So I write about that in the book. So then, I was collecting all of this information, and then it was like suddenly something kind of went on in my head, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I'm talking about people who turned into shellfish, what about my dad? So, so this is a photo of my dad's desktop that he took, and somehow I forgot, this is just the funny way that memory works, but my dad had basically like disappeared for a decade to write this very, very mysterious accounting software that he called shell computing. And because he was like, this is going to be top secret, no one can participate in it, I have to write it all alone. We never knew, it's like, it was like this big black hole in my memory of him, because he basically just packed up and left, went to Taiwan. And I never knew what he was doing. So much so that I remember like in 2013, when it was like, there was like an article that was like, inventor of Bitcoin, Dorian Sakamoto, found in Temple City, California, which is my hometown. I was like, I almost clicked on that thinking it was going to be about my dad. So anyway, it was this mystery. So I felt like I really had to interview him and just get to the bottom of what that was all about. So once I started interviewing, his voice kind of just took over, and he took over the book. So this is a section that's written from his perspective. Like a kind of nightmare, my daughter now calls me all the time to squeeze out some information about my life history. Dad. She always talks to me like a misbehaved dog. What? Dad, I only have a few questions, okay? Always a few questions before the big request. She said she wants to know, when I was writing Shell Computing, what I was thinking and feeling. Sometimes I scratch my head. Why my daughters care so much about thinking and feeling. They like to define things as happy, not happy. When I pick up the phone and I say, Ian, gama, in a cheery voice, then I can trick her into thinking happy, and then she gets off my case. Personally, I never think when I am in some sticky pickle how I feel. Okay, what do you want to know? She explained she's putting together a story relating to shell lovers, and I am one example. But to write her story, she needs to understand my emotional situation and have lots of personal details. Will I cooperate? If I care about her academical success, she said, then I should try to give her as many personal details as possible. Well, I can be obedient employee and answer the question. So I explain. The shell symbol in shell computing means to shield, to protect. It means to be strong. Originally, I thought to name the program Shield, but it was too close to Blue Shield Health Insurance. I can hear her typing in the background. Can you send me a copy of the program so I can look at it? I need it for my story. Daughter, I tell you honestly, your idea sounds very boring to me. I am not sure it has any unique selling point. Will your story have a scene of betrayal or murder? A spy mission or some romantic affairs? Kung fu or fighting? Also, if I send you the program, your computer cannot run it. Only my computer can. It is the only one left that has the 2001 Windows XP operating system. I can hear her typing again. Then she asks if I can send some screenshots. I can't, I'm busy, I said. What are you busy doing? She said. Daughter, if I can understand the purpose of your story, then I can fulfill your request. But right now, you don't explain your thesis very well, so it seems like a waste of time. After that, she got annoyed and said bye-bye. I am happy that she perceived my message, I don't want to participate. However, the whole day I had no peace because I was wondering what she intends to say about my computer program. She never had any interest before. In the past, when I asked her to help me to write the user manual, for instance, she always turned her nose up. What changed? Is she writing about flagpole figures of small business in Southern California? Not knowing what kind of story she is trying to tell makes me nervous. So today when Ian calls, I say to her, I can't talk now because I'm sick with fever. I think I walked too much yesterday. Really? How much did you walk? You can't get a fever from walking too much. I walked more than 3 miles to get the discount cabbage from Guanghua. Oh, that's not a lot of miles, she said. Maybe your face got sunburned because you're not used to the sun. So strange. Whenever I'm sick, seem like she barely care. She say, are you sure you are sick? Compare this to merely a few days ago when she called her mama and they were talking and I shout like parrots and I shout in the background, hey, mama has been sick for many days now and she has a painful rash all over her body. When I say that, my daughter becomes very angry and she talks so fast I can't understand. Something about, how come you didn't tell me? What are the symptoms? Is it shingles? I said, no, definitely it's not shingles because I have much experience with that one. Don't go to Ye Xiren, she commanded to me. He doesn't know anything. He's a quack. What is quack? A phony, a cheater. Looked it up in the dictionary. Daughter has been mad at our doctor ever since she came home from college and he dared to scold her for piercing her lip. No, that's not why, she argued back. It's because every time we go, he pushes some designer drugs for issues we don't have. Apparently, for these 2 reasons, she hates our doctor. But what can we do? He has been treating us so long already without killing us. So she forced us to wait on the phone so she can Google some doctors with good Yelp reviews. I see Marie, the wife, is mad at me for revealing her rash. She's pretending to write down the phone numbers that Ian is reading to her. But I know she's just going to see Ye Xiren, who will give her some penicillin. After the phone call, Marie gave me a stinky face for the rest of the day. What? At least I'm the honest reporter. Okay, so that's a little bit about what it was like to interview him. So as you know, you can probably guess there were just some serious long gaps of non-participation and hostility. So I had to wait that through, but eventually he did relent and he gave me a lot of stuff. Like he did give me his screenshots. So I finally got to see his home screen. So this is the actual home screen of his computer program, which by the way, he wrote this, complete isolation. He finished it and then never sold it. So there's one person who knows how to use it, and it's my dad. So I had to go through it with him. But because he was writing it for so long by himself, he had to put in some features to entertain himself. So you can't tell, but all the things, everything moves around, like the balloons. They kind of float up on the screen. And if you click them, fun things will come out, like lottery numbers or like your horoscope or just random stuff. But also these very, very mysterious and cryptic messages, like this one. There are so many of these. This one, this one says, "Nobody will cry with you when you weep, be strong." And this one says, "Be patient, good thing will not come out in a rush." This thing actually says, "Calm down. Soon you will find your solution for this. You have no right to make decision for others." And then it just goes on and on. But be careful with your mouth. Think before you speak. So yeah, I started to just think about these as messages that he was actually just telling himself, and I found that to be very poignant. But so anyway, but because my dad had spent all this time building the shell around himself, and he really doesn't, he actually is a recluse. Doesn't talk to anyone except for us. So there were times when definitely it was like, I pushed him too far, and I never knew where exactly I would misstep and would cause him to retreat again, and then it would be a long period of silence. So I'll just read one of these, speed bumps. I don't know times when it was too much for him. And then also, before I go to the next part, you should know what this is. This is a flow bee. Does anyone know what this contraption is? It didn't work. Your dad bought one too? Oh my God. Okay, so this was big in the 90s. It was a big thing. It was as seen on TV. So you need to know that this is called a flow bee, and it was a thing. I don't know, maybe you're too young to remember. But yes, it was there too. Immigrant dads loved it. Yeah, okay. So here goes. Before I can explain to you about the tofu fight, I have to say that I responded rationally, based on a long history of never being free of the influence of the women in my life. These days, since I don't earn money anymore, Marie's attitude is that she can make comments about my spending and restrict me even more than before. Even when I want to spend some very small potatoes indulgence, she still has something to say. So every 2 weeks, it is me and Marie's routine to go to the Vietnamese tofu maker to buy some boxes of fried tofu. Customarily, we get the cheapest one, plain. But today, as we were standing in the line, I suddenly feel I want to eat the tofu with mushroom. The mushroom tofu costs $1.40, more than the plain tofu. So I tell the cashier, "Hey, please give me the mushroom tofu." Suddenly from behind, Marie pinched my arm very hard and say, "哎呀，香菇好贵啊. Mushroom is expensive." It was just like the time with the Floby. This was around 1993. That year, I discovered an invention called the Floby that Sam's Club was selling for very cheap. It is like a kind of vacuum machine for your hair. I saw commercials on As Seen on TV. So convenient. I bought it even though I recall the cost was quite high at the time, maybe $49.99. But my rational thinking was I could save money by not going to the barber. I hated going to the barber ever since I was a boy because of what happened to me around age 5 or 6. In Taiwan, we have strict hygiene days when school officials line us up to inspect hair, teeth, nails, make sure we are clean. I knew the day was coming, but my parents never paid any attention to me and refused when I asked them for money. I was so ashamed to go to the school without fresh haircut, so I took the scissors from the drawer and cut my hair in the mirror. Hey, I was so proud of my accomplishment. But the next day, the teacher slapped me and said, 坏孩子. He told my mom, and then she took the turn to hit me. The barber was heartless, too. He told my mom I am a naughty boy as he shaved off my head. So after that, whenever I go to hair salon, I always recall this humiliating incident. But with the Flowbee, I could finally get perfect trim without enduring human fuss. However, when Marie saw my Flowbee purchase, instead of congratulating my genius, she was so outraged about the expense, saying, "Why you buy this nonsense junk?" Immediately, her chastisement ruined the concept for me, and I threw it in the closet, never using it again. Where is the justice? Already, I spend so little, conserve like a monk, but she still must make some comment about my spending. This morning when she yelled at me for buying mushroom tofu, her tone was so harsh, like I am her ignorant child. I feel my whole head would explode. I said to cashier, "Please, I want 3 boxes of mushroom tofu." Quickly take my money out of the wallet and shove it forward. But during the exchange, when I glimpse my rip-up wallet that is holding together with some thin threads only, I suddenly feel a choke in my throat like I want to cry because, wow, how disadvantaged and pathetic am I that when I want to spend $1.40 more for tofu, that I have to be disciplined in this unfair manner, even when she knows my undershirts are ripped and I conserve electricity by not using air condition, and I don't use stove or microwave and eat everything cold, and use my wallet until this disgraceful condition, like that time I was sweeping up the leaves and garbages outside FutureLink, and a man and his young crime partner approach me holding a knife to demand my wallet, and I take out my wallet and pretend I am a humble janitor with only $20, and they actually, can you imagine, believe my bluff, go away. And I believe the knife-holding guy even feel bad for me, feel sorry for robbing this poor janitor they are thieving from because my clothes, even more shabby than theirs, my wallet is so ugly that when I take out the $20 bill, they immediately go away because they believe it is not justice to demand more. Of course, all of these visions flash across my mind in 1 second as we are standing to buy tofu. The woman took my money and gave me tofu without commentary, but when we turn around, everyone is staring and laughing. Another whip husband with his tail tucked between his legs? Is that their thinking? Is it my destiny never to have freedom? In the car, I am so mad. I'm holding the burning tofu boxes in my lap. It is quite painful, but too precious, and I don't want the liquid to spill. But as I predict, Marie backed out of the parking lot so fast she almost hit another car and slammed on the brake, and the boxes slide off my lap. I cannot take it anymore. I shout in a loud voice in English, "Pay attention! You never do anything right!" She ignores me now, and my stomach is full of fire. My speech of accusations will be liberated shortly, but I know it is dangerous to say it loud because Marie can get distracted easily when she is driving, and to argue now will be like suicide situation. You cannot even talk to her normally when she was driving, so I dare not consider fighting. I cannot say anything about the mushroom tofu at this time when the car is moving, but I am planning everything I will say when we park safely, for example, mentioning again the Flowbee injustice, and how one time I found a stack of checks that she forgot to deposit. So when compare with that loss, what is $1.40 that I want to spend on mushroom tofu? We approach our street, and there are no more cars around to hit us. She pulls into the driveway. I say out loud, "I will buy a ticket to go back to Taiwan. I am leaving." Marie pushed the garage clicker and pulled the car back in. I say, "We have cash flow problem, and I have no confidence you will manage finances correctly. That is why I must go back to Taiwan and make some plan. Anyway, in Taiwan, I can save money by living more cheaply, as that is what you want." She cut the engine and unbuckled seatbelt and started to take grocery inside, even without acknowledging my speech. "You cannot argue that we have a lot of risk, as our daughters have so much uncertainty," I say. She is giving me the bitter silence medicine. I stand in the kitchen, watching her put grocery away. Open fridge, shove the tofu in. "Nobody want me here anyway. I'm just a burden to you." I say this all very reasonable, then go to my room, turn on the computer. I open a new browser for Eva Air. That is my preferred hairline, a Taiwanese company with pleasant service, vegetarian options. But to save money, I will fly China Air or Malaysia Air. Back to counting pennies because I don't deserve more. How many flights I have taken, back and forth across the ocean, filling up a bank with gold. I waste, I vanish, because I cannot stay still. What a waste my life is. So, yeah, so that's, through writing the book, I had to think about a lot about, this impulsive, this thing, this clam family, this clam family, and how this clam family deals with conflict, and which of those adaptive mechanisms are, healthy and which ones are not. And I do come to a conclusion in the book, so you'll have to find the book, read the book to find out. But yeah, so just to close, so finally, my dad, I think in this kind of incredible gesture of generosity, like one day he was just like, you can have everything, just have it all, and just do whatever you want. And it was such an act of generosity. So that was how I was able to write the book. But I'll just leave with these. So everything I have in it that relates to him, he gave it to me. So I'll just like leave with this slideshow, and I'll just slide through it. And you can read it. There's text.
Thank you so much, Anelise. That really was so beautiful. I've been like so excited about Clam Down that I like Google it every couple of months for like ages. And now I'm even more excited. I can't wait for this book to be in the world. And I also, I have to admit that I have recommended so many Olympic exertions so many times to so many people so emphatically that it's kind of embarrassing, and I'm really happy that I can now do this to a room full of people. So we have copies of so many Olympic exertions at the table. I really, really recommend that you read it. It's an incredible book. I hesitate to call it a break. We're going to quickly reconfigure our projector setup before turning to the next portion of the evening. And also, are there more chairs that we could maybe pull out, or is it all set over there? People are welcome to. I think this area is very comfortable to sit in on the floor, but also if you're happy where you're leaning. And we've got some chairs over in this corner too, so people can take a quick moment while we reconfigure the space to get comfortable, and then we'll turn it over to the screening portion of the evening.